The following podcast has been rated PGN. Parental guidance is neglected.
Boy, it's been a long time since we've had a little father-son chat.
I am your father.
Father, if you can hear me, I failed.
Don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I'm here with my dad.
I know what you're gonna say, son. And you're right. You're right.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
I've abandoned my boy!
Welcome back, everybody, to Parental Guidance is Neglected. It is the PGN podcast. That's two generations of film buffs, myself and my son included, talking about movies. And welcome to our first show of 2024. We've been off for 17 months now. But let's go ahead and catch you up. First off, Jackson, what'd you think of the Oscars?
Yeah, I mean...
What a surprise,
Lots
of surprises. Hey, can you name who won Best Film last year? Right now I'm blanking. It wasn't Parasite. That was the year before.
No, it wasn't. No, it was not. Everything Everywhere was the year before, first of all.
Oh, Everything Everywhere.
Parasite was like maybe 5 years ago.
What won last year?
It was. I can name the two before, but last year was.
See, that's how.
The movie that I'm thinking of right now, and
the Academy Award winner.
It was going up against. It's not Poor Things, and it's not Killers of the Flower Moon.
Right, those both
lost. It was
Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer won, yes. The biggest film of the year.
Oppenheimer won. Before that was Everything Everywhere. Before that was Nomadland.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Since Oppenheimer has won the Oscars, have you had any desire to revisit that film? I liked the film a lot. It snuck into my top 10, but I don't feel the need to watch it again. Do you?
I mean, I've seen it a bunch of times for that class that I took, the Barbie and Oppenheimer one.
All right.
It's still awesome. And in fact, my friends were watching it recently downstairs, and I kind of like went down to get water, and it was one of those things where it was like I was standing there with the cup in my hand, just like watching the movie for like 10 minutes when I was like, oh, I was supposed to get water.
Oh, it mesmerized you.
It sucks you in, man. It's good. It's a good movie.
Sucks you in. Hey, listen.
What about you? You had any want to go back?
No. And you know what? Surprisingly, I haven't seen it on any cable channels or anything. I'm sure it's on HBO or Showtime or one of those. Yeah. But no, I think I'm getting to an age now where I don't need to repeat almost anything. The only movie I really wanted to watch again in the last few years was Past Lives. Like, I felt like that was a film I wanted to go back and watch again. But a lot of films that I go, oh, I love that, I don't find myself. The other thing, too, is time is so limiting, and there's so many good Mark Wahlberg straight-to-Netflix movies that I need to see. And
I mean, if no one's going to watch them, someone has to.
Somebody has to watch them.
Who's going to review these movies?
Yeah, and as you'll find out shortly, that person would be me. So listen, off the gate, guys, we apologize. We have been gone for at least a month. My son Jackson started up with school again and had to deal with a bunch of film production stuff that he was wrapping up over the summer, and then he's getting going on two thesis movies that he's got to do his senior year of film school, so he's been very busy. I had to take his sister off to school in the Big Apple, and I've also been working on a TV show filming in South Carolina. So we have been off the grid a little bit, but we are back on, and hopefully we'll be back on track. But with that said, last time we saw you, we promised some trivia this round, and Jackson and I touched base earlier today and went, you know what? We have about, I believe, 49 films that we have not discussed since we last saw you. So we're going to put trivia on the back burner till next week. That's right, next week, if we do it. We'll be back next week with reviews of the new James McAvoy movie, Speak No Evil. David Bautista's got a new movie with Ben Kingsley and Terry Crews called The Killer Game. About a hitman who thinks
all the hot new reviews.
Yeah, so it's we're definitely at the end of summer because it's a horror movie with Professor X and a David Bautista action comedy. So I have a feeling we'll have a little room for trivia in our next episode. But before we get into the myriad of films that we're getting ready to discuss, Jackson, what's just new with you in general that you want to share with the people?
Well, I have been absolutely sick the last few days.
Yeah.
Just completely run down ill. And I thought it was COVID for a little bit. My girlfriend's actually, if those of you who just heard coughing 5 seconds ago, that was my girlfriend hawking up along in the background. Are you okay? Yeah, she's all right.
Yeah.
But she's still sick, so I'm on care duty for the day.
How great would it be if we propped up her sick ass right to the microphone and just made her like talk about movies? She'd be like so
bad.
Like, come on, we really need you, sweetheart. We really want to know what you thought of Blink Twice. You got to get up here.
Oh man.
No, we'll let her rest.
Yeah, if she was feeling better, I'd ask her to come and talk about Blink Twice because she was actually at the premiere. But
fancy.
But yeah. If you hear some coughing in the background, it's not someone that I'm holding captive in my basement. It is my girlfriend, who's feeling under the weather. But yeah, outside of that, I've been just busy, super busy.
How's school going? This is your senior year. This is your final. You've already told me you seem pretty happy with your classes this year on the final stretch, right?
Yeah, with the exception of one, I'm feeling pretty good.
All right, why don't you go ahead? Why don't you go ahead and name that class and professor here live on the air?
Right here, it's going to go on screen right now. Here's their email address.
Yes, and
no, there's just one class that's it's not for me. It's very businessy, and it's
yeah. Well, that's college.
Yeah, that is college. Yeah, that's kind of all I got to report on. I've been super sick the last 2 days. Feeling better today. Excited to talk about some movies. I was supposed to see 3 movies last week, and I only ended up seeing 1 because things got a little hectic.
What were the 2 that you were supposed to see?
Well, I missed out on Blink twice.
Okay, I
missed out on Blink twice, and I missed out on Beetlejuice.
Okay.
I also never got to see Trap. I really did want to see Trap. I know that it's Shyamalan, and we haven't always seen eye to eye, but I've heard from a lot of people that if you go in expecting just like a cheesy, fun horror flick, that it can be really fun. So I'm kind of pissed off I missed that one in theaters, but
the good news is that I will have reviews of both Trap and Beetlejuice and Blink Twice a little bit later. Jackson as well. You know what? I have a feeling Jackson. My gut tells me that out of the movies that Jackson did see, and that the ones that I saw, because they are not all similar. There's only a few overlaps. I got a feeling you got the better end of the deal. But
I think I did. I was looking at my list and I was like, you know what? I may have gotten the better end of the stick on this one.
You may have lucked out on that. We're going to go back over a lot of the films that we've seen over the past 5-6 weeks. Going all the way back to Deadpool, and we'll break those down very quickly. But we're going to start things off on the show with the 2 films that I know we both have seen. One has already left the theaters. The other one is kind of on its way out. One was a bit of a disappointment. This was a A24 movie that was coming off the heels, and a lot of people were saying it could be the long legs of the later half of the summer. And then the other one, also a horror film, a reimagining of a beloved franchise. And that, of course, is I guess you could call it the prequel sequel, since it falls sequentially right in the middle of all the other ones. It's the Alien movie Romulus. But to start things off, the last film that Jackson and I sat in a theater and actually watched together was Cuckoo. This was the independent horror film. I don't know if I'd call it horror. I think I would throw it more in the genre of kind of almost supernatural thriller. It's from writer-director Tillman Singer. It stars the very hot right now Hunter Schafer, who people would know from is it the HBO show I think she's on? Is she on?
Yeah, Euphoria. She's on Euphoria, and she had a very brief role in Kinds of Kindness.
Right, but she's
and a few other things here and there. I'm forgetting right now, but
yeah, she's one of those faces you're going to be seeing a lot of recently, as well as probably Kaylee Spaney's, who we'll talk about in Alien. She's also kind of the up and coming girl right now. Cuckoo tells the story of a family, a slightly dysfunctional one. This is a father who is remarried to a new woman, and she has a child from a previous marriage, and he's got a teenage girl from his first, and they head off to a ski resort in the off season, and the girl is bereaving, I guess is the word, the passing of her mother, and is now forced to live with her father, who she does not particularly get along with. And the ski lodge that they're staying at, things are not quite all as they seem. Lots of nutty people running through the night, crazy people working for the resort who are not quite all there, and some very strange guests. Before we get into exactly what happens, because to be honest with you, I'm still not 100% sure on everything that's going on here. This does take a very sharp Twilight Zone-esque twist where you have to kind of go, okay, suspend reality a little bit here. This is definitely, it's not a psycho running around with an axe or anything. I guess I'm saying Cuckoo was pretty freaking cuckoo. Whether I liked it or not, I'll hit that in a minute. Jackson, what were your thoughts on this?
I think that my biggest takeaway from this movie, and as unfortunate as it is to say, is that I think that this movie was just kind of boring. And which always sucks to say about like a thriller and a horror is that, especially because it was propped up to be this big scary film.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of scary elements, a lot of things like that, and it ended up just being a lot of expositional dialogue and monologuing, and not much happening outside of what the characters were just saying out loud. Like, I didn't think that it was there wasn't any really visual metaphors that I was picking up on.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of felt like a
little cuckoo.
Meh. A little cuckoo. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure I understood that there was a lot of themes of, like, you know, coming into a new family like this and losing a loved one, and, you know, feeling like you're not a part of your new family, I guess. But overall, it fell really, really flat for me. I don't know. I was never really that excited about the movie when I was watching it.
I never really liked any of the characters, and I felt they were very, like, I didn't get to know really much about the father and daughter dynamic. Her little sister was just kind of a quiet, you know, I mean, yeah, of course she was quiet because she was, I believe, deaf, right? In the
or she was, I think she was mute.
Or mute,
but
mute.
She was mute, except it was like, you can have a mute character and still spend time with them. You know, I felt like that character didn't really get much time. It was also really throwing me off because the dad looked just like the guy from Wings of Desire, and he wasn't.
Did.
And I spent like half the runtime going, "Is that the guy from Wings of Desire?" And it wasn't. It was some other guy. But yeah.
Also, I don't know if it's any fault. There is a bad guy here. There is a villain. The owner of the inn. I'm not giving anything away because his first scene, he's like doing the whole, he looks mysterious. And, I never quite understood once we find out what he's doing and what he's up to. I didn't really feel vested in this, experiments that he was running. And, It was such a convoluted twist. I'm not going to say it didn't explain itself. I kind of get the gist of what was going on, but boy, you got to sit through a lot of exposition, and I'm not going to lie. I had to watch a few YouTube videos afterwards and go, what exactly was going on here?
Yeah, agreed. And again, this has nothing to do with the movie, but the main villain looks exactly like Ben Whishaw from Women Talking and The Lobster, and I also spent so much time going, I can't tell if that's him or not, and it wasn't.
Right.
Again. So weird coincidence where every character in this movie looked like someone else, and it wasn't. But,
biggest fault
but
here.
That's about my thoughts.
Biggest fault here for me is the script. Before we won't. But what did you think of how it looked? I mean, you're the cine guy. I mean, did it look good? Did you like the sound?
I was really excited because I like. Oh yes, yeah. I like the sound was really good. And I thought I always like when things are shot on 16. I just think that 16mm film looks really good.
Right.
Outside that, they didn't really do it. I didn't think that the lighting was that anything special. Yeah. It just didn't really.
This was a huge.
There wasn't really anything crazy happening.
Huge audience favorite at a lot of festivals. People really had buzz on this one, and for me, I just have to go. It must have been a pretty light film festival if this was the big highlight.
Yeah, agreed.
Highlight
just
of them.
didn't really hit for me. Yeah.
Listen, I wasn't a massive fan of Longlegs. I enjoyed a lot of things about it, and I thought it was a really clever and interesting attempt at the plate, even if they didn't hit a home run. This one was barely a single for me. I'm going to give Cuckoo a C-. And I'm being, I think I'm being a little generous there, only in that again, and I'm going to talk about this probably with some other films, I sometimes give credit to someone if they're trying something different. I go, it didn't,
sure. Oh, yeah.
it didn't work. But I, on an entertainment level, I don't know if it was quite a C- for me. I would probably go lower if it was like, was I really moved or cared about this story?
Sure.
But I'm giving it a C- because look, it's shot pretty well. They have a couple creepy moments. The red-eyed chick is kind of creepy, and hey, you can't say it wasn't different. So, C- for me. Where do you land?
I'm gonna meet you right there with a 4.
Ooh, that's even a little worse. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit, but
yeah, it's so funny. I've seen movies with you over the years. Like when we go see something together, not just a comedy, because a comedy it's like either we laughed or we didn't laugh, and we're like,
right, yeah.
I think we both walk out. But even if it's a movie like this, I kind of walk out knowing what you thought of it. Like,
yeah, you can kind of tell where it's like, all right, that was Cuckoo.
I don't know.
And now we're gonna go outside and.
Yeah, maybe if it's like, I'm going to go to the bathroom, just tell me what happened when I was gone, or just squirming, but
there's small, there's always hints.
I don't know if we've ever seen a
hints.
movie and I walked out and I go, oh, there's no way he liked that. And I could tell he hated it. And you're like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Yeah. Very rarely does that happen.
Very rarely. So Cuckoo, now on streaming, probably the horror letdown of the summer, and unfortunately, at least for Jackson, I know, probably one of the most disappointing because I know he was kind of pumped for it. But would Alien Romulus be the same thing? Now, Alien Romulus is one of the films that I was looking forward to the most this summer, only because, one, Fede Alvarez was doing it, who I think is really, really strong at horror, and this was going to supposedly be a horror reinvention of a franchise that's gone way overboard into the action and kind of thrill ride. It's kind of like after Aliens set the standard for sci-fi horror and then Aliens set the standard for sci-fi action, the franchise hasn't really known what to do with itself, especially through...
Which one do you like better? I know there's always some back and forth of Alien versus Aliens.
I think Alien is the better movie. I think Aliens is the more entertaining of the two. But I think technically, if you look at Alien, it is so beautiful. The lighting.
I think Alien's the better movie. I like Alien a lot. It's a great movie.
No,
I do like Aliens a lot too, but it's just something about the original Alien. Just there's not much more to say.
Well, speaking of which, I mean, this franchise has seen its ups and downs. We had one too many sequels with Sigourney Weaver before that ship ran aground. Then, of course, we had a lot of the crossovers of Alien versus Predator, which were standalones that were absolutely ridiculous. And then Ridley Scott's attempts in both Prometheus and Alien Covenant to kind of go back to the backstory, the originator of how this world all began. I'm not a big fan of those. I know some people worship them. Alien Romulus is a kind of a standalone story that stands in between Alien and Aliens. So that starts off on the mining planet that will be explored in Aliens by Sigourney Weaver and Bill Paxton once it's been completely decimated by the species. This is very much a return to, I think, both films. You can see nods to both of them. I think maybe there's a couple too many nods. I don't know if I needed catchphrases from the original. I thought that was pretty bad. That was a bit much. There was a couple shots and sequences that were just, it was fanfare, but I still think it was very enjoyable fanfare. And I think the thing that really, really does save this movie a lot is the performances of Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson, who plays her brother, I believe Andy, in the film. There's a CGI choice about a flashback to a character from the first Alien that I thought was unnecessary. I don't know why it had to be the exact same face, since it's not Ash, but there is a cyborg in this movie that's the same model as Ash, so we get the CGI of that late actor's face. But I'm pet peeving a little bit. There's a lot of things here I like. Did I love it? I'll let you know in a second. Jackson, your thoughts on Alien Romulus?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. I enjoyed it. Overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Alien Romulus.
I did too.
But I think that I have a lot of notes that come along with that. I think.
And you know what? Here's the thing. Yeah. I bet I don't disagree with any of them. But and I probably will agree with a lot of them, but I think my good fars outweigh the bad. I hope the same with you. What are your notes?
I mean, just because you brought it up, CG face just didn't need to happen.
It didn't.
I mean, it could have been anybody. You know what I mean? It really could have been anybody. It could have been a different actor. It could have been no actor, and could have just been like, oh, the decrepit face melted off.
Yeah.
You know.
So
for me, that decision felt solely just like fanfare / like. I don't know, monetary based.
It was a little confusing for me at first because when I saw that face, I thought that's Ash, and I had to go back and go, no, Ash is on another ship somewhere. Like if you're a fan of Alien, you know that the cyborg or the synthetic Ash he's destroyed, and then this one has a synthetic that's also been destroyed differently. So it took me
I didn't even get that because I haven't seen Alien in so long that I thought it was the same ship.
No, it's not.
So that's on me because I was fully convinced where I was like, oh, this is the same guy.
No.
But you saying that it's not even the same guy is even like, oh, so we just like super didn't have to do that.
Yeah, they really didn't.
So I don't know.
Same
that
model.
always just makes me uncomfortable, and it also just looks horrible. I mean, it doesn't look. I don't buy it at all. It looks just fully terrible.
Fake.
Yeah, which sucks because one of the best parts of this movie is that so much of it is practically done. I mean, like almost all of the aliens are done practically.
Yeah.
The big final monster, I don't want to give too much away, is played by a real life basketball player who happens to just be like 7'10".
Yeah.
So many awesome things, but I do have a few more critiques. I think that until the last 30 minutes. A lot of this movie kind of just feels like Alien, but again, you know what I mean? I think that it takes too long for them to get to like an original part that we haven't seen before. And once it hits that, it's awesome. Like those last 30 minutes are so like fun to watch.
The anti-gravity thing was a great idea and I thought looked really cool. I thought that was
I totally
really
agree.
Cool.
Anti-gravity forward, and then the whole final sequence I thought was just so awesome and so fun to watch. But I don't know. A lot of this to me felt kind of similar to how Star Wars,
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens felt. We were like, yeah, well, I mean, that was good, but it's kind of just, it's kind of just A New Hope again.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. A lot of back and forths. I still don't know if I'm fully sold on Kaylee Spaney, although I did love the actor who played Andy, whose name I'm blanking on
David
right now.
David Johnson.
I thought he stole the whole movie for me. I loved him through and through. A great performance from him, but I've been talking for a long time. I want to know what you think.
Well, it's really smart that they did put a really strong relationship at the center of the film. Otherwise, it very easily could have been 20-somethings in space, and you go, let's watch as the 20-something. The fact that there's a whole story going on with them, the fact that he has some background, the fact that because of the chip, there are some character changes in him, gave it some dynamic. So without that, this is just your standard Alien film.
Yeah.
I understand kind of the Force Awakens comparison you're going, because listen, some of the shots are the same, some of the lines are the same. Just visuals are obviously nods to both Alien and Aliens, and I'm kind of okay with that here. I think
totally fair.
I kind of am because I thought it was so entertaining, and creepy, and well executed. I would be fearful of the next, and I'm sure there will be.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like we've kind of told that story. We have now told the story completely of people stuck on a ship with an alien and face huggers, and you're going to have to come up with something new next time. And I understand this might not have been the freshest, but I feel like after 15 years of Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection and Alien vs. Predator and Prometheus and Covenant, that it's okay to go, you know what? Let's do a movie that just goes back and does why we love these first two films. Like, I'm giving them a pass because it's kind of like this is the movie that rights the ship. If that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
You guys took this franchise and you completely fucked it up. I'm at least going to make a movie that does what I know works from the first two. So
sure.
I'm going to forgive it for that. I think it's a lot of fun. It's not a classic. Listen, if I'm ranking them, it is a very distant third place behind Aliens. And I say distant because those films are classics, and this is not.
Yeah.
Okay? I think it's right up there, slightly above Alien 3, which I think it's a lot more crap than it should. And you know what? I enjoyed it, and it's going to get a very solid B from me.
Yeah, I think one more positive than negative from me. Positive, the movie looks phenomenal. I mean, cinematography is so good in this. I such a distinct look. I loved it so much. It's just a great looking movie. I mean, the ship designs are so crazy. The makeup and all the SFX work that they had to do to make this stuff practical is so insane, and it pays off so well. The one thing I will say is that I agree with you about the personal relationships with Kaylee Spaney and Andy, but I did want to see a little more from the other characters. I felt like some of them were a little bit filler.
Yeah.
I wanted to see more of them together as a group before they get to their eventual split.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did like this. I don't think I liked it as much as you do. I'm going to go with a 6 on this one.
Oh.
Wow,
you
didn't like that one. You didn't like that, did you?
Can I talk you into a 7? Can I talk you into a 7?
I don't know if I can buy that. I don't know if I can buy it.
It's a lot of fun, though. You got to admit, it's a lot of fun. So it's a good, fun popcorn movie.
It is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. I think that there were so many small tweaks that could have been made that could have made this an 8 in my mind.
Oh, okay. So let's meet in the middle and call it a 7, shall we?
I think I have to go 6. I think I have to stick with my guns and go 6. I know.
All right.
I know. I'm sorry.
So there you have it. Alien, Romulus, and Cuckoo. I think Cuckoo's a hard pass for both of us. And Alien, Romulus, if you have not seen it on the big screen, I think you're going to have a lot more fun with it in the theater than you are.
Yeah. I mean, good luck seeing it now with Beetlejuice in theaters. I think everything else kind of getting pushed out. But yeah.
Speaking of which, I saw Beetlejuice. Don't say it a third time because then he shows up.
And we all know that's not good. A whole lot of trouble when you can say that guy's name a third time.
A whole lot of wackiness. I can't do a good Beetlejuice impersonation.
I was just gonna say that was tough.
That's not fair. I can't do it. Tim Burton is back 30 years later. Listen, this is the big movie of the week. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it now since Jackson happened to mention it. Go ahead, buddy. You were going to say something?
I was just going to say that I haven't seen the original Beetlejuice in forever. I mean, I couldn't tell you 2 things that happened in that movie right now.
Saw the... Okay, so disclaimer here, I'm not a fan of Beetlejuice. I haven't seen the movie since it originally came out, and I remember not liking it. I'm a huge Michael Keaton fan, but I was kind of like... I didn't find it particularly funny, and I didn't find it particularly charming.
I'll even go one step further and say that I'm not a big fan of Tim Burton. I am not a huge lover of his films.
Yeah, I don't think if I was gonna buy a Tim Burton movie, maybe the first Batman, I would say. I
can agree with you on that.
Yeah, I thought the second one got silly. I don't know. Pull up his IMDb while I'm talking.
Well, I mean,
about
Nightmare
Jackson.
Before Christmas is his big one.
I'm not a fan of that. I didn't like Big Fish. I didn't like Edward Scissorhands. No.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Corpse Bride.
Yeah.
Sweeney Todd. Frank and Weenie. Dark Shadows.
Nope.
Oh, I mean, he did do Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I do enjoy that movie.
I think that was more just focusing on Paul Rubin and his insanity.
I think that was an earlier one for him anyways. But,
Well, people were excited. He's back in the helm here. In fact, everyone's back except for Gina Davis, Alec Baldwin, and Jeffrey Jones, who, of course, is still hiding from his child pornography charges, which is weird because his character, the father, is in this film, but they get around not using him is that he's been killed and was the scenes that they actually do show of him, they do in claymation, and then he's half eaten by a shark, so he's half of a body walking around, and they got they got a voice double to cover for that.
Well, this is really interesting because they don't just have that problem, but also, is Alec Baldwin in this movie?
He's not, nor is Gina Davis.
Okay, so they just scrapped the whole
they mention them kind of in passing, but the movie really does center on Winona Ryder, who's now the mother of Jenna Ortega.
Ortega.
And Catherine O'Hara plays a much bigger role in this as well. Here's the the good news is if you're a fan of the movie, they're back. The bad news is, at least for me, is Willem Dafoe is in this as well as Monica Bellucci, and they are both not only wasted, they're just not very good.
Oh, no.
It's too many characters. There's too many subplots. I was in a packed theater, advanced screening 2 nights before it opened, and I shit you not one laugh from the audience the entire time. I'm not quite sure why the reviews are kind of good on this and word of mouth, because I have a feeling they're getting a little caught up in the nostalgia of all of it.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton, again, not in this movie as much. There's a lot of subplots here having to do with his daughter.
Here's the thing. I was reading about this actually earlier. He's only in the original Beetlejuice for, I think, 15 to 20 minutes. He's not a main character in either of them, I don't think, which is so weird.
He's only in this one maybe 15, 25, 30 minutes at the most. There is a lot of subplot going on here. If I'm going to say something positive, everyone seems like they're having fun with it. Tim Burton, if you're into that style of that kind of wacky, full color, practical, crazy visuals, there's certainly plenty of that. The story is very convoluted. I think they kind of repeat themselves at the end with another one of those big, they get possessed by the ghost and are forced to sing a song together. From the first one, it was like, Day-o, Day-o. Well, now they do that again with another hit from the 70s.
Oh, good.
Where they all get possessed and sing a song. This was not fun for me. I'm not. But again, everybody who I've spoken to has seen it, says they loved it, or at least they very much enjoyed it. I'm not one of them. Beetlejuice gets a D for me. I did not like it.
Wow. Okay, here's what I'll say.
Okay.
Winona Ryder in an interview recently said that she's been having a really tough time in Hollywood lately because she feels like she's working with a lot of new talent who haven't been watching a lot of movies lately. She's like, I've been having a hard time having conversations with like the Stranger Things cast about the movies that I love because they don't really watch anything.
Right.
But she said that she had a great time on this because Jenna Ortega is a huge cinephile, and Jenna Ortega listed 2 of my favorite movies as her favorites in a recent interview.
I saw that.
That being Naked and A Brighter Summer Day and La Haine. So I think that Beetlejuice for me gets a 9.5. Without me seeing it, out of just pure joy for Jenna Ortega having similar taste.
Yeah, I did not see. I saw that same Letterboxd, and I was like, "Oh, here it comes, Mean Girls." She's gonna pick.
No, she's a huge cinephile. Apparently, on set, she referenced Bela Tarr, which is a crazy. I don't even think you know who that is. A crazy reference to some Belarusian director who I don't like very much, but. I don't know. It gives me hope and I hope that I hope people watch more movies.
Oh, there you have it.
So yeah, Beetlejuice a D- and a 9.5 out of 10.
It's the PGN podcast. Jackson Burns, my son, and myself, Regan Burns, talking movies. Make sure you're following the PGN podcast on YouTube and Instagram, and follow my son at Jackson N Burns on all the social interweb. I'm at Regan.Burns. And see all the shenanigans and all of our reviews as well. I put up more extensive reviews. And follow us on Letterboxd. If you are a film fan, you're going to see more thoughts. Jackson comes up with some of the funniest one-liner quips for his movie reviews on there. And then you hear me expand a little bit as well.
Yeah.
And not to mention, you can see what we think of some older films if you're thinking that as well. Do you ever get on Letterboxd and just like go, I need to go back and like grade the movies that I've seen before I even had Letterboxd?
I do. Every once in a while, I'll get into a conversation and be like, oh, I have seen that, and I haven't thought about it in a long time, and I'll kind of go through and rate stuff. I have a lot of fun just going through deep dives on that and just adding a bunch of stuff and like a bunch of watch list stuff. Like, oh, I haven't seen this, I should probably watch that, and oh, I haven't seen this, and so I'm on that site probably too much.
A little too much. But
I love it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Jackson run down 2 films that he saw in just a second that may or may not be Academy Award fodder. But before we do, I'm going to just run down my 3 Netflix movies this week. They range from bad to bad to badder. I'll start with the best of the 3. There's a new movie just opened this week called Rebel Ridge. This is director Jeremy Saulnier, who did a bunch of the True Detectives for HBO. It stars Aaron Pierre. He was in M. Night Shyamalan's Old. Anna Sophia Robb from one of Jackson's favorite movies, Soul Surfer, and Don Johnson, of course, of Miami Vice.
I do. I gotta talk about that too, because I still have no idea where that came from.
Okay, side note here, Jackson. Tell us what your connection is to Anna Sophia Robb in the movie Soul Surfer.
Last week, I received an Amazon package. I have it literally right here. Hold on.
It was addressed to you, right? It was addressed to Jackson Burns?
Addressed to me, to my address at my house at school. And it is a used Blu-ray copy of Soul Surfer. This is the dual disc package, Dad. The combo pack. It has the Blu-ray and DVD version. And do not fret. The special features include deleted scenes, 3 behind-the-scenes featurettes, Heart of a Soul Surfer documentary, and a Bethany Hamilton on professional surfing featurette. So if anyone here is interested, I will be selling this. This is if anyone's interested in Christian surfing film with Dennis Quaid, star of Regan, and Soul Surfer.
Wow. And you still don't know who sent that to you?
I have no idea where it came from. I've asked pretty much everyone I know, and not even like a... It wasn't even like that's really funny. Like, I texted that in the group chat, and no one said anything. So I just don't know what's happening with that. But maybe my only thought is that maybe some relative that we do not talk to very much was like, he likes movies, and like picked up I got a copy of Soul Surfer here. Maybe I'll throw it to him. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, we do have some religious folk in our bloodline who might have been like, he's a fan of movies and he should be Christian. I'm going to send him Soul Surfer.
It's just strange because no one said, there was no note. There wasn't, like, no one texted me about it. Like, no one had contacted me about this before it showed up on my doorstep. So
this is one of those things you're not going to even find out till 30 years from now.
Yeah, but they're like, did you enjoy Soul Surfer? And I'll be like,
did you?
No
card, no note. With that said, if everyone could please send any random Christian faith movies to Jackson, DVD.
I'm a
DVD.
big fan. Yeah, please.
He's a huge fan.
I've got Passion of the Christ on my list.
That is
sorry, you were saying. I totally interrupted you.
No, that is a tough movie to sit through, by the way. Passion of the Christ. My God.
Yikes.
Whether you believe any of it or not, it is just like 2.5 hours of a guy getting tortured. Speaking of tortured, the Netflix movies, Rebel Ridge. It's about this young black man who gets picked up in the wrong town that he's bicycling through. And what starts out as kind of like a modern age Rambo First Blood turns halfway through into a kind of a convoluted plot about having to get evidence against a corrupt chief of police and the hard drives that'll send him to jail. And here's the weird thing, too. It's the only thing I'll say about Rebel Ridge is it's an action movie where the hero does not want to hurt anybody. So there's really no kills in this. Like, even gunfire, he, like, shoots non-lethal sandbags at the cops, you know? Because he doesn't want to, obviously, go to jail.
Batman style, yeah.
Yeah, so it was very, very weird. Rebel Ridge, it's passable enough, but gets ludicrous at the end. That gets a C-. I'd probably stay away. Next up is a movie called The Deliverance. And the craziest thing about this film, Jackson, is that it also stars Glenn Close. This is a movie directed by Lee Daniels.
What?
Yeah, who did Precious and The Butler. It stars Andre Day, who you'd know from the United States versus Billie Holiday. It's got Monique in it. It is this weird hybrid of kind of this inner city family drama about this blended family. Glenn Close plays the white mother to Andre Day's African-American daughter. But they happen to move into a house that is got evil spirits, and they all get possessed and start terrorizing each other. It apparently is based on a true story, but based loosely, I guess, because this goes straight into everything from vomiting up pea soup to throwing poop to people getting thrown against walls. It becomes a complete exorcism ripoff. It is all over the map. Glenn Close, I'm not sure what she's thinking or who she owed a favor to. She gives it her all. Don't get me wrong. She plays white trash really good. But after Hillbilly Elegy and this, I'm starting to wonder,
Yeah, why did? Yeah, I forgot that she was in that too.
Yeah, it might be time for her to play a more
timely.
sophisticated lady. The Deliverance is exorcism schlock. It gets a D.
Ooh.
And then finally on Netflix, I saw a new movie called The Union. The Netflix has this thing where you can tell there's these action movies that they want to put in theaters, then they realize are so bad they just dump them out on a streamer. It's directed by Julian Farino. He did a lot of the Entourages, the old HBO Mark Wahlberg show, and this does star Mark Wahlberg and Halle Berry. Here's the setup. Imagine, Jackson, your high school sweetheart shows up and tries to rekindle a romance. But then she abducts you only to inform you that you must team up with her in her super secret CIA-like organization to, I don't know, save the world or something like that. This is lame action. There is no chemistry between Halle Berry and Mark Wahlberg. J.K. Simmons is in this, cashing a check.
Oh, no.
Lorraine Bracco from The Sopranos and Goodfellas is in this. Dana Delaney.
Oh, no.
This is
what happened, guys?
Yeah, this is a bunch of people cashing a check. The action is very uninspired. It's all Bourne Identity ripoff stuff. Everyone looks bored. The Union, if you have not watched it yet on Netflix, gets a solid F. This is one of the worst films of the year. So, 3 really bad films from Netflix you need to avoid. There you have it. Okay. So, I'm trying to... I guess what Netflix does is every year they have 1 or 2 really good films that they release in November, December, whether it's The Irishman or what's the one that was set in Mexico that was nominated for Best Film in black and white? Why am I blanking now? About the family.
Roma.
Yeah. They have 1 or 2 of those that they hold on to, and then everything else is like a John Cena or Hemsworth.
Yeah, it's
schlocky,
the Gray Man.
Yeah. That just was not good enough for theaters. And for some reason, I keep getting suckered into watching them. I have yet to learn my lesson.
Yeah.
You could join me in this endeavor a little bit. You do have access to
I could do
streaming.
a lot of things. I could jump out of my window right now if I wanted to, but I don't think it's not likely.
you could take the reins maybe just once.
Maybe next semester when I have more time, I'll dip my toe into the more schlocky realm of films. But for now, I'll stick to what I know.
I have several more movies to talk about, including one I'm very excited to talk to Jackson about because I know it's a film that he was very curious for me to see called I Saw the TV Glow.
I am very curious
to get to that in a little bit. We're at the halfway mark on this marathon PGN podcast.
We've got a lot of catching up to do.
Jackson, however, went out and saw and actually heard speak Coleman Domingo in his new film, as well as a A24 independent about a young Asian boy who's into videotaping and skateboarding. Both have Oscar buzz. Both really did not perform great at the theaters. Doesn't mean they won't come around Oscar time, but it's never a good sign when they can't get anything mustered on their first release. Jackson, thoughts on both Didi and Sing Sing?
Yeah, I'll start with Sing Sing first. I've actually seen it twice now, once in theaters for the first time, and then a second time when Coleman Domingo, the star of Sing Sing and also producer, came to talk to my school. First off, extraordinarily humble, nice, kind guy.
Nice.
Could not have been a better speaker. Had so many incredible stories.
What's the movie he was nominated for? He was nominated last year.
He was nominated for Rustin last year.
Rustin, which I never saw.
Yeah.
I
also never saw. I would be curious to see it now. But he was a phenomenal speaker, had so many great stories. Just troopered through arguably the worst interviewer I've ever witnessed in my life, asking questions. But that's neither here nor there. And it was great to hear him talk. Unfortunately, he didn't talk about Sing Sing very much. Like only 1 or 2 questions at the very, very end were about Sing Sing. But one thing I will bring up is that he mentioned that and part of the reason why I'm so upset it didn't do better at the box office is that every member of the crew has stake in the movie, like actual stock in the film. So depending on how the film performed, people would get, even below the line workers would get more money on the back end, which I thought was very, very kind of them to do.
I love that idea.
Unfortunately, that didn't do too well because the film kind of flopped. It didn't even get distributed that much, to be fair. But anyways, the movie itself, Sing Sing is a film about inmates at Sing Sing prison who are all a part of I think it's called RTC program, which is an acting program for inmates where they all will together write a play and then perform it for fellow inmates. Coleman talked at length about the actual program when he was speaking, and the reincarceration rate for members of RTC is like 2%, I think, which is unbelievable compared to the national average. But the big thing about Sing Sing is that all of the actors, except for one or two of them, were part of the program themselves. So most of the people in the film are just playing themselves. Oh. Coleman Domingo is so good in this movie, and he's not even the best performance.
Wow.
The heart of this film comes from the men who are playing their own roles.
Right.
There are so many emotional moments in this film that just really, really are hard to watch. A really emotional, touching film. Both about the power of art, as far as, you can kind of see these guys. There's a really great moment where they're all auditioning for the different roles of the play they're going to put on, and it's just static camera as each of them walks in and does their part, and you can watch them transform. And like for a brief moment, you can see that they're not in the prison anymore. Like in their own mind, they're outside. But it's just not enough. It's kind of like about the boundaries of art and the freedom that comes with it, but also there's only so much that it can do. I love this film. Really, really phenomenal. If anybody watching gets the chance to see it, I cannot recommend more. I think it's one of the best films of the year. I think that it has one or two Oscar baity moments that kind of prevent it from getting a higher score from me. Specifically the ending. I wish that it had ended a little bit earlier. But man, there are some really, really difficult scenes in this film. I cannot recommend it enough. It looks gorgeous, great directing. Coleman puts on the performance of the decade, and again, he's still not the heart of this movie. Wow. Sing Sing for me is going to get an 8. I really, really enjoyed it.
I assume this is based on a true story. Is he based on a real person? Is this
He is based on a real person.
A real person. Yeah. So it's
who is also in the movie. The person that he's playing has a very small cameo at the beginning. He asks him for a signature on a book or something.
Right.
But it is based on a real guy. Divine G is his character name.
Right.
Well, but you really, especially as an actor, I think would really appreciate this movie.
Gotcha. Well, one, I guess, depending how much faith the studio has in it, I'm sure they could do an Oscar push and always re-release it in limited theaters come Oscar time. And I heard rumor that is a possibility that the studios might have just pulled it. It's not doing well. That it's a movie that really didn't stand a chance competing against, the likes of Deadpool and Inside Out 2. So it's like maybe we should just hold ourselves off until November or December. It's so tough when they release these movies like this during such huge tentpole films for them to get any kind of traction. I mean, yeah. I feel like you either have to do like an Everything Everywhere All at Once and go early in the year. Because once the superhero train starts rolling...
Oh my God, Deadpool and Wolverine just killed it, which just breaks my heart. I didn't even see Deadpool and Wolverine, but Jesus, I mean, that really killed me for a few days where I was like, man, that's just a really important movie got totally trampled.
How did the film look? It sounds like it's a kind of story that could go kind of biopic-y and just be kind of like
it looks
by the
really
numbers.
Good. The cinematography is one of the best parts. I think opposite to Cuckoo, this is also shot on 16mm film, but totally uses it to its fullest extent. There were so many shots in this movie that just, without even anyone saying anything, just immediately break your heart.
Right.
I love this film. Couldn't recommend it enough.
All right, Sing Sing 8. Can I talk you into 8.5? Or I don't know why.
You might actually. You could probably.
I haven't seen it, so I don't even know.
Yeah, you probably could. But that brings me to my the next film that I saw, and that is Didi, which came out around the same time. This is also another lower budget, I think it seems to be a semi-autobiographical film, directed by newcomer Sean Wang, and also starring newcomer Isaac Wang. I actually don't know if they're related or not, but yeah, Didi is a pretty cut and dry coming of age film about a Taiwanese kid. He's like 13, growing up in the U.S. around the same time that I did, just a little bit earlier, around the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. And I don't know what you would think about this movie because I think that it was very much directed towards my generation.
Right.
Like it felt very similar to, I don't know, how someone from the 70s probably feels watching Dazed and Confused, where it's like, oh yeah, that's totally what it was like.
That's what it was like.
Immediately, which is hard to do because a lot of these movies I think really try to do like the Gen Z thing and it doesn't end up working out. I felt like this was a really honest, accurate portrayal of what it felt like growing up in this time period. And I really connected with it really heavily too because a lot of it is also just about this kid who's in between middle school and high school growing up and realizing that maybe his, the friend group that he's become comfortable with isn't the people he wants to be hanging out with anymore. And finding film. It's about this kid who kind of finds out that videography, filming skateboarding videos is what he wants to do with his life. And I connected with that really heavily. The biggest standout in this film, though, I will say, is Joan Chen.
Joan Chen's so
absolutely kills it in this movie as the struggling immigrant mother. Unbelievable. I mean, I haven't seen her in anything since Twin Peaks, and she was honestly not in it for very long. But man, oh man, did she kills it in this film. I would see it just for her. And honestly, the lead, Isaac Wang, holds his weight as well. Yeah.
Did they stick the landing, or does it get too sentimental?
They stuck the landing. I think that it could have ended way more poorly. I don't know if it was like the best ending ever, but I would say it sticks the landing. I think it can get a little bit stereotypical here and there with as far as coming of age stuff goes, but there was enough originality in it to just keep me going.
Right.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it.
Okay. Is this a movie that you think with a re-release later in the year could garner anything, or is it not quite that caliber?
Probably not.
No.
Not yet. I think that was a big takeaway, too, is that I think that Sean Wang has a lot of growing to do. There's a lot of potential, but I think that there's a lot of... The roof is high, there's growing room. And so for Didi, I'm going to give it a 7.
7. Okay. I got vibes from the trailer, and I never saw it, but wasn't there a movie called like mid-90s or mid-80s or a skateboarding?
Mid-90s. Mid-90s is a movie that I love also. But I would say it's a lot more different than that, where there are definitely similarities, but I think that mid-90s is more a timepiece for early 90s kids, and this is way more early internet. Like kids who grew up with a desktop computer that they use to message their friends and things like that. And so there are similarities, but I think that this is it separates itself enough.
Right. Okay. Well, there it is. There's Jackson Burns reporting on both Didi and Sing Sing from apparently the site of a quarantine polio clinic. It just sounds like your poor girl back there.
I feel horrible. I don't even know.
Suffering away. Jackson has a few more movies to talk about as well, but before we get to that, I'm gonna just run down these movies real quick, only stopping to talk about a couple. Just so you know where I'm coming from. Land of Bad's a movie that came out earlier this summer. That was a big action movie starring Liam Hemsworth, Milo Ventimiglia, whatever how you ever pronounce his name, and then Russell Crowe, who apparently has decided that he is going to be the Marlon Brando of buffets. He has gotten so big. It's a war movie. It's very violent, ultra violent, but done very well, I think, for that type of film. If you're not into watching people get tortured, though, and brutal military fight scenes, it may not be your cup of tea. And it gets a little silly with Russell Crowe commanding the drones to save these guys. But I'm going to call it average. Land of Bad, for me, gets a C. Also, another movie that I'm going to give a C- is Boy Kills World. That's the Bill Skarsgård vehicle.
Oh, my God. You saw that?
Yeah, I saw that. That came out earlier this year, came and went. Bill Skarsgård, kind of shot to fame playing Pennywise in the It movies. He's in The Crow, which is currently in theaters. Hollywood's trying very hard to make him a star, especially an action star. I'm not sure if this is quite the best fit for him. The movie is very much like a video game meets a underground comedy cult film. It's got its moments. The violence, again, is very intense. I just don't know if Bill Skarsgård is the right guy for these types of films, and it does get a little convoluted, silly. But again, it's not bad, which seems to be the theme of a lot of the movies I'm going to talk about. Boy Kills World gets a C-. Here's a couple stinkers, though, that I would stay away with. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Bob Marley, One Love, unless you are a massive Bob Marley reggae fan. Do not be fooled. This is kind of almost a concert movie. It's a lot of performances. I don't think you're going to learn anything new about him. I do think that Kingsley Ben-Adir did a great job playing the reggae star. I thought he was also great as Malcolm X in One Night in Miami. And then Lashana Lynch, who I just adore. I loved her in The Woman King. She's great in No Time to Die. She does a great job as the wife as well, but They Can't Save, which is, I thought, a very simple biopic. And again, not for me. I'm giving Bob Marley, One Love a D+. Here's another couple movies that also get Ds. I don't want to go too much into Tarot. That's the movie about a bunch of teens who find tarot cards. They bring to life the cards, and the cards kill them. That's all you need to know. It doesn't get an F.
There it is.
Doesn't get an F because it was in focus. That's a D. That's a D-. Also, that came from the writer and directing team of The Expendables 4. I think that's all you really need to know when that's the top credit is The Expendables 4. I think you know what you're in the hands with.
Okay.
Also getting a D for me is Arthur the King. I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little bit excited to see it just because it did deal with adventure racing. Here's another Mark Wahlberg feel-good movie because apparently he has drunk the Kool-Aid and is all about feel-good. He
Might
plays
be the biggest Hollywood disappointment in a while.
Yeah.
Just as far as like talent over selection of films.
I'm not sure what's going on there. There's adventure racing. It's the most convoluted adventure. I'm an adventure racer. This is not the way it happens. They don't take shortcuts. You don't take shortcuts and find an old abandoned zip line and decide to try that out. You don't rock climb.
That sounds exactly like every story I've ever heard you tell.
Yeah, that's how I always thought. You don't suddenly climb a sheer cliff with your bike hanging off your back because it's the only way out of a canyon. Apparently this is based on a true story, and I could care less. The dog doesn't die. There, I spoiled it. I spoiled it. Dog doesn't die.
Wow.
That also gets a D. And then the last one I'll talk about before we talk about the TV glows is I did see Trap. I know Jackson's excited to see it. You've heard a lot of stuff about it by now. I agree with most of it. I do think Josh Hartnett's performance deserved a better film than this. I do think it was a big commercial for his daughter in her singing. She gives the worst performance by the daughter of a director since Sofia Coppola in The Godfather 3.
Oh, no.
It is horrible. All logic goes out the window. It is not, first off, just explain to me. This is one of my craziest pet peeves with things like this. So they're going to this concert, and the concert starts, and this is supposed to be like a Taylor Swift type concert. You know, this is screaming girls everywhere. And then at least 15 times during the concert, half the people seeing the show decide to get up and walk around the concourse and we'll just skip a few songs and go to concessions or
something I realized too. I've only seen the trailer again, but I saw a comment that was like, "What kind of concert happens in the middle of the day, brightest day?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's daytime the whole time.
Yeah,
it's like, what kind of Taylor Swift concert happens at 12 or p.m.?
It's almost like they didn't want to do the lighting for that time of I don't know what it was.
Yeah, so weird.
It is embarrassingly bad. And then finally, the two highlights that I would say, as I'm looking over my notes here, and one, obviously, I'm a little late to the party. I like Deadpool and Wolverine. Everyone knows that I am sick to death of superhero movies. I will tell you that if you go in and knowing that it's a comedy, it delivers plenty of laughs. Obviously, the best part of the film, and I'm not spoiling anything, is the dozens of cameos from Wesley Snipes and Chris Evans and Channing Tatum and Jennifer Gardner. I mean, they steal the show for what it is. And I think, listen, we may have finally pushed these movies as far as we can. I don't know how much more Deadpool I can take. But if this is the last one, and I think it should be for a while, I think they did a pretty good job with it. And I'm giving it a B. I think it's right there where you would think it would be. And then the last one, which is also a very solid B for me, is Blink Twice. Director Zoe Kravitz.
Okay.
She is the star of this film. This is a really well-directed film. It is edited great. She knows how to build tension. Listen, the story's a bit of a stretch. I don't know if this is Channing Tatum's best work. He does get a little over the top. I did like Naomi Ackie, who played Whitney Houston in the biopic of that. But for Zoe Kravitz to come out of this with the gate, I think it's a really well-crafted thriller, even if logically it doesn't quite make sense. I alluded earlier, there is a bit of a Twilight Zone-y twist that explains everything. And let me just ask you this in general, Jackson. Again, I'm giving Blink Twice a very solid B. I enjoyed it. The movie puts up a warning at the beginning that comes up and says, warning, there are images in this movie of sexual abuse and rape that may trigger certain audience members. Be aware, or if that's something you don't want to see, whatever. I get that, but the biggest twist of this film is the fact that there's going to be sexual assault and rape. So
I feel like it's the kind of thing where it's like,
what are your
isn't
thoughts
that why we
on
have
that?
the parent advisory things? Like when you, like if it's an R-rated film, you can expect like violence and
yes.
So I feel like that's a little bit redundant. I mean, I mean, listen, I don't care that much. But I mean, if it is the twist,
it is. I mean, it's kind of. I mean, listen.
Yeah.
The movie's been out for a couple weeks. I don't want to be a complete spoiler, but listen, I'm not being a spoiler any more than the fact that if you go see this film, that's the very first thing it's going to show you on the screen. So when you know that there's going to be scenes of rape and sexual assault, you're like, oh, I bet this paradise is going to turn into some scenes of rape and sexual assault, and then it does, and that's the twist.
You're like, oh, right.
You're like, I don't know. So, I don't know. Have we gone too far on the we have to make sure we've legally covered our grounds, that we don't offend or trigger anyone?
I feel like that's covered in the parent advisory thing. You know, if you're going to see an R-rated movie, expect R-rated level of violence and sexual content.
I mean, that's what I thought.
I mean, yeah, I had a very similar, this is a slight of a segue, but I had a very similar experience when I recently watched 8½, which I know is a way older movie.
Yeah.
But I watched the DVD that I borrowed from the library, it had an introduction by Terry Gilliam. And I was like, oh, great. Terry Gilliam's awesome. I'll watch him they did like a filmed introduction for it. And he just spoils the whole movie in his introduction. He just fully, like, halfway through is like, and this is the final scene of the movie, and it's pretty awesome. And I was like, all right. And this is the introduction? Because I feel like I just watched the whole movie right now.
Do you think that at that point they're thinking the only person who's ever going to rent or watch 8½, are film aficionados who obviously should have already seen 8½?
I guess, but it just seemed weird because it was like, it was like an older DVD I'd gotten from a library in like the age where it was like, if you want to see a movie, you have to rent it. And so it's like, you'd expect some people to watch this for the first time. That was the only way to watch movies, for a long time. So I don't know why. I don't know. It just felt very odd where I was like, did Terry Gilliam know this was an introduction, or did he just kind of just not care?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, since you're speaking of 8½, and I'm pretty much done here except for my one movie that I'm giving an F, but I'll save that for later. And we do have to
Are you
talk.
Actually?
Yeah, I do have a film I'm giving an F, but it's not.
You're gonna give.
I didn't say it was that. I said there's one other film.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm giving an F to, that I'm saving for the very end.
What was I just gonna say? Oh yeah, I did see some older films.
What did you think of What did you think of 8½? Fellini's masterpiece.
I'll start with 8½. Fellini's masterpiece. I thought it was good.
You've just lost so many films.
I know.
Jackson, he's playing chess with death.
Everything about this. That's a different movie. First off.
Oh yeah.
I thought that this was. I should have liked this more, and I think that this is one of those instances where it's like you're watching it and you went, "Wow, this influenced so many movies that were just better than this."
Wait, what was 8½ about again? Why am
8½? Is like the surreal. is like a surrealist kind of semi biopic about Fellini directing a movie.
That's
so
not
it's
the
about
one
it's,
with the
it's
guy
about
playing.
a director.
That's not the one with the guy playing.
No, that's
Chess with Death.
That's the Bergman movie. That's Seventh Seal.
Oh, Seventh Seal. Yeah.
8.5 is the one where the guy floats up to the sky and then he gets pulled down by the rope.
Right.
It's very dreamy. It's like the guy in the suit and the sunglasses walking around, and he's a director, and everyone's always asking him questions, and he never knows the answer. And it's two things. All That Jazz just did everything in this movie infinitely better. It's pretty much a very similar movie with the very similar themes, but executed at a way higher rate.
Okay.
The one cool thing is like the scene from Pulp Fiction where they're both dancing together. That's from this movie. Like they just do the same. It's this exact same scene. They're wearing the same outfits, the pretty much same song, dancing the same way. And so that was cool. And listen, it's a good movie. It's almost too personal. Where it's like, I felt very similar to this that I did The Fabelmans, where it's like they really want you to be rooting for the guy that you're supposed to be rooting for, but you're like, I think you're kind of an asshole. Where it's like everyone's asking this. It's pretty much an hour and a half of everyone coming up to the director of this movie being like, well, what do you want? And he's like, I don't know. I really don't know what to do here. I'm kind of running out of time. And the ending was really good, and it looked great, and it has good performances. There was a lack of me caring throughout this film that I couldn't get over. Apparently she didn't like it either. So 8.5 for me is going to get a 6. It was good, and it was interesting to watch for the influences, but nothing great.
What kind of film student are you? What kind of film
I know,
student?
just take away my film card. The other older movie that I watched for the first time is one that I've been wanting to watch for a while now, and a director that I've been meaning to get into more because I really liked the film that they're known for the most. And the movie I watched was Thief, the Michael Mann movie. Starring James Caan and Tuesday Weld. Michael Mann's so cool.
His movies are cool. Yeah, he's cool.
And James Caan is such a dick in this, but there's so many moments in this where you're like, but he can get away with it, you know?
Yeah.
He can kind of get away with it.
He's Jimmy Caan.
Yeah, I mean, this is a like every Michael Mann movie, a very blue-looking movie, and it works very well here. Mm-hmm. I think that my biggest takeaway from this is that this is like an earlier film of his, and you can see him trying a lot of things. Like every sequence kind of has one moment where you're like, oh, that was really, really cool. But he hasn't fully grown into his style yet. There's still a lot that's waiting to happen.
Yeah.
The actual thieving sequence in this is so cool.
Yeah.
They do this crazy thing where James Caan's got this 12-foot long laser that he uses to cut open this massive safe, and they do it all practically, and it looks so awesome. James Caan is doing his James Caan thing here. He's doing his his quirky asshole thing here.
He always worked till the day he died, but he never quite went to that next stratosphere level, but he was always so solid.
Yeah, he's great in this, but he also if I had to spot the differences between this performance and Sonny Corleone performance, there's not much different.
Oh no, he played
there.
James Caan.
Yeah,
no,
he's pretty much just doing James Caan.
Okay.
And so yeah, I think that not even close to touching Heat. Heat is a masterpiece like no other.
Yeah.
But this is still a very good movie, and it's worth a watch. I give Thief a 7. And there's one other thing that I want to talk about that I've been watching a ton of, and it's you would hate any of these, and so I'm not even recommending them for you. But for if you know, I have been binging all of Connor O'Malley's short films / YouTube videos, and this is a comedian who is married to oh my god, he's married to.
Do I know this guy? Would I know him?
He's A.D. Bryant's husband, and he wrote he wrote for pretty much every he wrote for SNL, and he wrote for pretty much every late night show that you know about. But he oh my god, he also just works. He's just a really odd guy, and whenever he's not working for these bigger TV shows, he kind of just goes nuts with these insanely overly produced YouTube videos, and I love them. I think he's hilarious. He wrote for that Tim Robinson sketch show for a long time, so it's very similar comedy to that. But yeah, shout out to him. He's got a stand-up special out now as well that I thought was
Connor
hilarious.
O'Malley. I'm not familiar with him. Maybe
I
I'd
don't
know him
think
if
it'd
I
be your
saw
kind
him.
of thing. Maybe you know if you saw him, but yeah,
Maybe.
that's kind of been my older non-theatrical watches for the
So
week.
since you mentioned Michael Mann, write these down, because these are the Michael Mann movies you have to see, so you don't waste your time. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
You have to see Manhunter.
Yeah.
You have to see The Insider.
Okay.
And you have to see Collateral. That's
I have been meaning to see Collateral.
Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx. So those are
And
the
Tom Cruise is the villain in that one, right?
Yes, yes. So those are the three that you have to see. Those are musts.
Not even Miami Vice?
It's not great. The TV show is better. It's not great. Your mom just texted me. This is breaking movie news. James Earl Jones has died.
Oh, no.
Darth Vader. Voice of CNN.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And
Field of Dreams.
most importantly, The Sandlot. Loved him in The Sandlot.
Wait, Field of Dreams, right? Or am I just
Yeah,
totally
Field of
looked that
Dreams
up?
too. Yep.
Yeah.
Field of Dreams and The Sandlot. 93 years old, James Earl Jones. Is
Wow.
dead. That's a good life.
He lived
though.
a long life.
93.
Yeah, that's really upsetting.
So
Man.
shout out
Yeah.
to
Everyone watch Field of Dreams or Sandlot this weekend, folks. If you want a good baseball double feature with James Earl Jones, it's very worth it.
Oh, they will come, Ray. They most
They will
definitely will come. Absolutely. All right, our last movie really to discuss before I give my final movie review after that is the movie, and it's because I know it's one that Jackson, and I know you talked about it, and I think you actually had some problems with it as well, but I think you praised it. I can't remember what score you gave it.
I saw the TV Glow.
Yeah.
So I'll give you my rundown.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the director, Jane Schoenbrunn, I think is her name.
Schoenbrunn, yeah.
Jane Schoenbrunn, I think that she has so much potential.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is so much this movie does right visually. My biggest problem is that I felt like it was a little bit too spoon-feedy. I think that it was a little bit too, like, it was trying to do a surrealist thing, a very Lynchian thing, but there were a lot of moments where I felt like it didn't actually have the substance to back it.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say it's not an important movie. I think the message is incredible. I'm so glad that, trans filmmakers are getting a space to say, their piece, but
Right.
For me personally, it felt way too obvious the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that you bring up David Lynch, because here's the thing. Only one person can do David Lynch.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, sometimes that person is not even David Lynch. Because sometimes I see David Lynch doing David Lynch, and I go, hey, you need to pull back on you're doing too much David Lynch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have a problem. I know you love Lost Highway. I think he goes way over the end
I love Lost Highway.
on that. But Blue Velvet, one of my favorite films of all time.
Sure.
So it's that fine line with me on David Lynch. If you're going to do a movie that's in that vein, and I'm not saying she's doing a David Lynch film, if you're going to do something like that, you're going to have to bring something new to the table. And I don't know if I see anything really new at the table with I Saw the TV Glow. For those who don't remember, this is a very artsy, ethereal, meditative movie about two young youths kind of finding their identity through a fictionalized TV show from the 90s called the Pink something, or the Purple...
The Pink Opaque.
The Pink Opaque. I'm going to tell you what my biggest problem with this movie was. And I don't want to completely slam this guy, but I don't get Justice Smith at all. He is one of...
really? I liked him in this.
I find him so incredibly boring to watch. I find him almost so flat in one note that I kind of zone out on him. He was in a horrible movie earlier this year called the American Society of Magical Negroes, which, again, I felt like he was just kind of sleepwalking through. I felt like he was kind of sleepwalking through this. I have not seen, I heard he's great in Dungeons and Dragons. I know he's got a lot of films coming out. I feel like for this it worked a little bit better though, just because, at least for me personally, because he is so clearly someone who feels like they're trapped in the wrong body, and so for me, like that kind of just shuffling through really, I think, helped the performance. Yeah. Because I think, and especially the ending of the movie, like that stuck with me a lot. Like that's kind of the reason why I praise this film so much, is because I think the ending, he especially really knocked it out of the park. I don't know. I didn't buy him in the old age makeup either. It just didn't help. I did like Bridget Lundy Payne, who played the woman in this, the young girl. I thought she did well. Look, this is not my cup of tea. I did not particularly enjoy the film. I felt a lot of times like I was watching a student film that had Daddy gave him a bigger budget. It's like,
yeah, sure.
It's like, we got to be able to blow up this TV and shoot it in a certain way, and I have a little bit more with the SF. I did like the way they shot the 90s TV show to look like a 90s TV show, sure. The filming and everything. I'm going to, again, I'm kind of coming full circle, like I said at the beginning. I'm going to give this movie a bit of a pass because, very much like Cuckoo, I didn't particularly enjoy it, but they're certainly trying something out. You know what I mean? They're throwing everything up at the wall. They're trying to tell a different type of film and a different type of story. It certainly was not entertaining for me. It didn't resonate with me. I'm going to give I Saw the TV Glow a C-, because I think it's just, if you look at the whole package, I think it's a slightly below average film with its heart in the right place.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you're saying. I think that I also give it a pass for a few reasons. A, because I think that just from the amount of trans people I've talked to who have seen this film and are like, I feel immediately seen and heard in a way that I haven't before, right, is a net positive. And the amount of people that I've talked to, or not talked to, but heard talk online where they're like, I watched this movie and finally realized why I feel the way that I do, is a net positive. It's just, as a film, I think that there was so much that could have been improved on, just overall. Yeah. Which blows. But I can't wait to see what Jane does next. I think when you look past all the clearly ripped Lynch stuff, I mean, I don't even think you know this, but the concert halfway through where it's like, we're stopping the movie and we're doing a show, like the Phoebe Bridgers concert. Yeah. That's just straight up Twin Peaks: The Return. They did that at the end of every episode of Twin Peaks: The Return. Yeah. And it's cool. But it was just like, I mean, that's just, I didn't really see a reason for that outside of just being like, man, remember David Lynch did this? But when I look past that, I think there is so much that Jane does that is very much hers, where it's like, I think that all that kind of body horror, weird, like, all the TV show stuff is very much her style, especially when you've seen her first film, We're All Going to the World's Fair. So I'm excited to see what she does next. I think I feel similar to where I did with Didi, where it's like, I'm enjoying what you're doing now, but there is so much more that you can offer, and I hope that you continue making films. Yeah. Hey,
new time directors, less is more. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't.
That's right. Yeah. That's the huge takeaway. Yeah.
Less is more. If you got a great story, you don't have to bowl us over with a visual craziness for everything. Tell me the story. Yeah. Make me care about the people. It's the PGN podcast. Once again, thank you so much for sticking around. You've probably all been wondering where we are, and if you stuck through this marathon of movie reviews and can't remember any of them, follow us at Letterboxd. You'll see all of our thoughts on there, as well as Instagram.
There's one more thing I want to touch on before we leave. I don't think we've gotten a chance to talk about this yet. Robert Downey Jr.
We're gonna go nerd talk. It's nerd talk at the end.
$95 million.
Yeah.
To play Dr. Doom in one movie. Thoughts?
Was it for one film, or I thought it was like 3 Avenger films? I think it's 3 films.
Maybe it's for 3, but he's getting paid $95 million to play the character of Dr. Doom and return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. How you feeling?
Okay, so I have no problem people being paid for. Here's the deal. they're not going to pay him $95 million if somebody who's producing this film and making this film isn't making enough money to afford $95 million. Okay? It's kind of like the athlete thing when you go, I can't believe this guy's getting paid $20 million a year to throw a football. And it's like, well, he deserves $20 million because the guy who hired him made $150 million off him throwing the football, and he's not even doing anything except making sure they have uniforms. So if the end product creates that much revenue for the franchise, I say that's fine. I personally, I don't know in what world I could accept $95 million to just put on a mask and go, I will have you, Fantastic Four. And
I just like think about how many Sing Sings could be made with that. You know what I mean? And not just that, but like that's like you could make so many movies with $95 million. And again, it's not just about him. I'm just saying in general.
Right.
And I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like he just got done pretty much bashing the last 20 years of his MCU run just to jump right back into it when a paycheck was presented. Yeah,
Did he really?
I feel like
Did
the
he
whole shtick was.
Did he bash
I mean,
it?
his whole Oppenheimer shtick was like, I've been out.
Right.
I haven't been feeling like myself for so long, and there were so many jokes that he was laughing at during the Oscars of like, you know, horrible writing from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
It just feels like, what the fuck is going on?
But here's the thing.
Like, also, why did they cast him? Like, I just don't think. No. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of people talking online. They're like, well, the original Doctor Doom is like I think Hispanic, or like some ethnicity that he's not, and it's like, so what the fuck's going? What like actually what is going on? Like, this is insanity. I feel like. Here's
what I would hope. I would hope that Robert Downey Jr. is doing one of two things. He's taking half of that $95 million and one, giving it to charity, or two, he's taking half of that $95 million and pouring it into a production company that goes out and funds smaller films. Brad Pitt is great at this. Brad Pitt.
Will Ferrell as well.
And Ferrell as well. You cannot go see a movie. I just saw 2 movies this week where I'm like looking at the executive producers and Brad Pitt's name comes up. That guy takes all that money that he makes off these huge movies and then reinvests them in his production companies and helps finance smaller films for things that he believes in. So I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen Robert Downey Jr. come up in any executive producer list. I don't know. Maybe he has a production company that I don't even know about. That is,
I don't think so. I think I would have heard about that.
I would have heard it too. So I think in my head, if I was going to ever make that much money off of 2 weeks in Australia filming on a green screen set, I would go, you know what? I think I can afford $40 million of this to start a production company and start having these young kids send me scripts and write a check for $5 million and help some guy who I believe in his vision. So I would hope that maybe he's going to pay that forward. But I don't know. But am I excited to see Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom? Fuck no. I don't really. I think I'm so superheroed. I'm so superheroed out right now. They could cast Laurence Olivier's dead resurrected corpse, and I'd be like, I don't think that's worth the price.
Oh my god, it's just so stupid. I see all these guys nerding out where they're like, well, I can't wait until you know, Spider-Man pulls off the Doctor Doom mask and he realizes that it's an alternate universe where Tony Stark has actually become the villain.
Right.
And I'm like, really? You can't wait for that? I can't. I can wait forever for that and be totally fine. What are you talking about?
We were in the theater.
Yeah, man.
We were in the theaters, and the Captain America trailer came on, and your mother was with me. And you know, at the very end, if you've seen the trailer, they do a quick little tease of Harrison Ford turning into
as the green,
as
or the Red Hulk,
the Red Hulk, and like just a bunch of people in the theater were like, and your mom was like, what was that? And I went, that's Red Hulk. Like, I know, but I was like, that's Red Hulk. And she goes, who the fuck is that? And I went, I don't know. But everyone's got to be excited about Red Hulk.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nerds. There was literally like footage leaked online, like, oh, we've got some of the more additional footage of Harrison Ford turning into Red Hulk.
I mean, these are things I was excited for when I was like 12, and
know.
like this was like a new and creative space where anything could happen, and now it's just like, they're just doing.
They're doing the same thing over.
They're doing the thing. Yeah.
And there you have it. Just like that, another episode in the can. A reminder to please like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube or listening on any of the podcast platforms. Again, this is my son, Jackson Burns. I'm Regan Burns. And finally, I promised it to you, one last final movie review.
Oh, yeah, what was it?
There is a new movie out. The title of the film is Afraid. That's capital AI in the middle for AI, Afraid.
Oh, no.
Here's my review. Ready? It sucks. Worst film of the year? F. Game's on. I dare anyone to beat
Okay,
that.
wait. Worse than, because your previous worst was remind me. It was the, oh my God, who is the director? The black director who always wears the makeup and does like the
Tyler Perry.
He plays all the characters. Yeah, it was the Tyler Perry movie, wasn't it? That was your previous worst. This is
Netflix
worse than
one.
that.
Afraid. Right now, number one. We'll see. We'll see. We still have a little bit of a year to go to. I don't even want to talk about it.
I'm not even going to ask.
Yep.
I saw enough in the trailer to be like, yep, that's going to be the worst thing ever, and stay away.
It's
okay.
It's up there. So sometimes things, Jackson, don't even deserve a full description. Thanks again for everybody.
Yeah, I would agree.
We are going to work our ass off to be here next week with 2 new movie reviews, maybe Jackson's pretentious art house corner, and a little summer blockbuster trivia, just because we can. All right. Love you, and I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Yeah, love you too. Bye.
Bye.